Guys, how's it going? Robert Warshak here, and BlizzCon blew it away with Hearthstone content. We have a lot of stuff to cover and a lot of new updates coming. So if you didn't catch the stream in which we watched BlizzCon live, we're going to go ahead and cover what they discussed. The new expansion has been revealed, and if you're interested in that, that'll be in the next video. But I wanted to unpack in this video the new core set rotation and Shaman updates and all of the cards that some of the cards that they're bringing back into the core set, which we will see in the upcoming expansion release when the new set rotates and we have these core set changes. So with that, we have Druid getting the old Menagerie Warden. It used to be a 5-mana 5/5 battle cry. Choose a friendly beast, summon a copy of it. They actually reduced its stats down a little bit here to a 5-mana 4/4, but its battle cry still stayed into effect, where it's a choose a friendly beast and summon a copy of it. This is allowing the Druid to keep its beast synergy, which we've seen in the past, some support for it over the course of a couple expansions. Beast Druid was a thing for a little bit, but it never was really a huge thing. So no doubt we're continuing to see beast support over the years and bringing back Menagerie Warden into the core set. We have Assassinate for Rogue here at 4 mana. At 5 mana, it really hasn't seen a lot of play ever. And that's because there's just, as we know, Rogue does a really great job at not spending mana to do a lot of stuff. Spending 4 mana to only do one thing's worth of stuff isn't really part of its identity right now. But as we know, the rotation's occurring. They're losing a lot of stuff. For example, lackeys won't be a part of the Rogue package anymore moving forward. So we have Assassinate going from what was 5 mana to 4 mana. So maybe it'll see some more play at 4 mana. But even if it doesn't get main decked, it's still not a bad discover anymore. At 5 mana, it was really just unplayable. So at 4 mana, it's actually like could be semi-useful now. Some really cool stuff, though. Some really cool stuff. As we know, the dragons, Ysera, Malygos, and Deathwing. The old Ysera is the same stat line as we have here, and at the end of the turn, it gets you a dream card. The new Ysera, add one of each dream cards to your hand, and it's a battle cry. So we keep the same stats. They have upgraded the artwork, and now you're going to get all of the dream cards at once instead of getting one at the end of each turn. This is a better upfront value. And the reason that they mentioned that they're going to change these cards is the fact that they want to keep them updated with what the power level of Hearthstone is today. These dragons have been around since the core set of Hearthstone, so it's only within reason to assume Hearthstone is not the same game it was when it first released, and the cards, as we know, get more powerful as time goes forward. So updating these dragons to keep them more competitive and to hopefully see some more play within them is, I think, a really good thing. And now we can actually put some of these cards in our deck or discover them through other mechanics and be able to play them, and they're actually semi-decent, and they could be the pick some of the times now. We also have Malygos, again, same stat line, same mana cost, but ability has drastically changed. It used to be +5 spell power, and I didn't think they'd be able to keep that around forever due to OTK decks and all of these sorts of combos that sort of 5 spell damage is insane, and that enables a lot of problematic combos and problematic cards when they're making future expansions, and I can only assume that it's going to limit design space, right? So now Malygos, Battlecry, draw spells until your hand is full. So still a massive amount of value coming out of this card. He's going to fill your hand with spells. You play this guy in some sort of spell mage, which would be insane. You could play him in a deck that revolves around an OTK, which you need a certain number of spells for this to pop off. So Malygos is a way you can find all of those tools and then use them the following turn. I can definitely see this card, while it is not necessarily the best card to use with spells in regards to spell damage, it is going to be a card in my mind that's going to work in a specific number of decks, just like old Malygos used to be. We have the new Deathwing here. We have a 10 mana 12/12, again, stats exactly the same. Battle cry, destroy all other minions. Discard a card for each card destroyed. This is a little bit more playable now. As we know, the old Malygos would destroy all other minions, and then you just discard your hand completely. It required you to discard everything, and it also killed all your minions. It still kills all of your minions, but let's say your opponent only has 1 minion and you have 7 cards in your hand and you play this. You get to kill their card and you only lose 1 card from your hand instead of having to discard all of the cards from your hand. So this new Deathwing is significantly better. Like, this Deathwing is massively better than the old rendition, is definitely playable. Definitely not even a bad discover anymore. They also revealed 4 of the 29 new minions, including into the core set. And we're going to take a look at these, and these look like a lot of fun and have a ton of spice to them. The first being the Novice Zapper. It's a 1 mana 3/2 Shaman minion. 1 mana 3/2, spell damage +1, overload +1. So very powerful turn 1 play. Spell damage has been a thing for Shaman for a while now, and playing overstated minions for low cost and paying overload for that has always been part of Shaman's identity. So the Novice Zapper will now be a, I can't see why you wouldn't want to include this into almost any Shaman deck you're going to play, even if spell plus, it's a 1 mana 3/2 with spell damage. Come on, you got to play this card. We have the Fell Soul Jailer, a 5 mana 4/6 demon. Battle cry, your opponent discards a minion, and Death Rattle, return it. So basically, you would play this card to possibly shut down your opponent's future turns. So if you know they're running some sort of possible combo deck or control deck, you have an idea of what's in their hand. Let's say you discard one of their combo pieces or some late game value tool, or maybe the only minion left in their hand, and they were going to play that the following turn. You get to play the Fell Soul Jailer now. He shuts down their turn, and they may not have a response for him. Granted, he only works on discarding a minion, so if your opponent only has spells in the hand, that's kind of unfortunate. I don't actually know how much play this card will see because it is kind of fringe, and it's a 5 mana 4/6, so stats really aren't insane. It is a demon, so it enters the demon pool of random demons that can be discovered. Looking at the Overlord Runethak, he's a 5 mana 3/6 rush, which rush is always a very insane mechanic. Whenever this attacks, which means it can occur more than once, give +1/+1 to all minions in your hand. He's a neutral card, so he can be weaved into a ton of different decks, whether Highlander is still a thing, whether he's more an aggressive type card. I just feel like giving all minions in your hand +1/+1 is quite the ability. We used to have cards like Prince that, if you remember, you used to give all minions in your deck +1/+1, and we knew how powerful he was, and he actually had he had restrictions to where you couldn't have any other 2 mana cards in your deck. While this guy not only can probably kill a minion when he comes out, he also buffs your entire hand. So granted, you have to have a hand when this happens, but I'm sure this guy will probably see play in some fringe decks, and the fact that he's neutral will allow a lot of diversity for him. We have the new Vanessa VanCleef, which will, I'm assuming, be replacing Edwin VanCleef, because that card is just broken and no one likes getting, a 12/12 minion played against them on turn 2, 3, or 4. It's just too early, too many stats. It's a high roll card, and we're replacing him with a 2 mana 2/3 combo. Add a copy of the last card your opponent played to your hand. So really utilizing the thief rogue mechanic here. We've seen a lot of that in the past. The rogue quest, we have clever disguise. There's a lot of different rogues cards that have taken abilities of stealing your opponent's cards, which is a very roguelike thing to do. And it's definitely more so the rogue identity than the priest identity. I don't know why the priest is so keen on stealing your opponent's cards when that's definitely more of a rogue type thing. And we know how fun that is to play against. This Vanessa card is a little bit more than that, because your opponent can play around it in a way, right? You have the ability to use it at certain times. So you don't always have to play it on turn 2. You can if you want for tempo, but you can play it later in the game if you're looking for something, or if you know your opponent has a high caliber spell or a minion in their hand and they end up dropping that. You could actually utilize your turn to steal that and kind of use it against them. So this card has a ton of range, tons of utilization, and I think it's going to be very, very good. I think this card's going to be very, very good. And then we have another priest card here. It's a 2 mana card. Discover a spell from your deck. We've seen this card basically in the past as Shadow Visions, and Shadow Visions was a main decked, always run 2 copy in every priest deck. So with you discovering the spell from your deck allows you to not pull it from your deck, which is good in some cases, bad in others, but it basically allows you to find the card that you need in the situation at hand. It gives you multiple copy of cards, like if you need 3 mass reses, you can pick that if you find it. Renews, healing, buffing. So Thrive in the Shadows is an insane priest card, and I'm honestly surprised that they reprinted Shadow Visions, because that's just nuts. Also, if you've noticed, at the bottom of Shadow Visions, we have a shadow tag. So now in Hearthstone, the different spells will have different types. So for a priest will have shadow spells. They'll have holy spells. For mages, we'll see frost spells, fire spells, and it'll actually be tagged at the bottom here, which I think is really important because it allows for more deck building and more variety and more synergetic abilities within spells. So it's like, oh, play 3 fire spells this turn, do this. You know what I mean? So you have this ability now to classify spells into subcategories, which I think expands on what you can do within the game like a ton. So this is huge. I think this is a very big deal. It may seem small, but I think this is very good, and it's a great step for Hearthstone. Scrolling down here, we have some more Shaman stuff. Shaman is a class that they mentioned that they're touching the most and making the most changes with this upcoming rotation and core set implementation. So if we have a look, see, we have Feral Spirits. Instead of overloading 2, it overloads 1 now, as overload 2 was a little bit much for a 3 mana summon 2/2/3s. We have Lightning Storm, which was my least favorite AoE spell in the whole entire game. I absolutely despise Lightning Storm because the difference between 2 or 3 damage, which it used to do, was terrible. Like, if you're playing a spell and you're killing your opponent's stuff like Flamestrike or Blizzard, you know it's doing 2 damage. Flamestrike, you know it's doing 4 damage. Lightning Storm, the difference between 2 and 3 is huge. Like if your opponent has a bunch of 3 HP minions and you play Lightning Storm and it low rolls and hits 2 on everything, that just feels bad. And if it hits 3, your opponent's like, what the heck? None of them dealt 2. It's just a terribly designed card. And now you know Lightning Storm does 3 damage to all enemy minions, period, end of story, and you overloaded 2 for it, so it's a 5 mana card in total. You also can see it has the nature tag on it, which is fantastic. But yeah, when you have AoE cards like this, having it do upwards of 33% more damage for no other reason than it's just random is terrible design. So I'm super, super, super glad that they fixed Lightning Storm to what it actually should have been 5.5 years ago. Earth Elemental, 5 mana, 7/8, taunt, overload 2. This is a big deal because it used to be overload 3, and overloading 3 on turn 5 is very, very bad. So this card's actually possibly playable now. They're also updating the Shaman hero power to replace the Wrath of Air totem, which is the spell power totem, which is quite a high roll totem and is very exceedingly powerful. They're replacing it with the Strength totem, which at the end of your turn give another friendly minion +1 attack. So while the plus spell power totem was good, and I'm not sure why they selected that one to take away, I kind of, we have the Taunt totem, we have the Searing totem, and we have the Healing totem. It's weird that they would take away the Air totem because that's a pretty popular totem in WoW. And it's part of the course, like, just totem build. I guess Strength Totem is one of the core totems you would use in WoW, but the spell power just matched up with Shaman so well because Shaman had a ton of spells and a lot of them do damage, and the hero power synergizing with the cards in the deck is nice. Plus, if you hit the Strength Totem and your hero power, it says give another friendly minion, which means if you hit the Strength of Totem and there's no other minion, it doesn't do anything. So you have a 0/2 totem. It doesn't have taunt. It doesn't heal. I don't know. I just feel like it's not good. I feel like that was a weird change to make, but I guess that is something that happened. That's going to be something I would like to hear your feedback on. We also have a new game mode. I didn't really know if I wanted to post this into its own video because I don't have a ton of information on the Mercenaries, but it's also in correlation with all this other stuff. It's just a lot to unpile. But because we don't have too much information on Hearthstone Mercenaries, I figured we could just include this at the end here because it does look interesting, but there's not too much information about it. So the best way I can put it, if you're familiar with Slay the Spire, this definitely reminded me how they were describing it and what this map looks out to be. It's very, very, very similar to a Slay the Spire type game, which I have played in the past, and I'll put a link in the description to that gameplay that I played this game like years ago, but very similar to it. So in a nutshell, you would pick a hero to start with, like Illidan or Rag, just like you would any sort of standard mode or in the duels. You got to pick a hero to start. And then from there, you'd go in a map that looks like this, and you would start at the very beginning, and you'd progress your way through the map until you hit the final boss, which there would be a reward. And as you progress, it's going to play like an RPG game. So in Slay the Spire, you'd have basically a hand of cards. You'd have a set amount of what you can do in a turn with mana, and then you'd be able to use any number of those cards in your hand to do that turn, to kill whatever monster was on the opposing side. And you could play the cards in your hand any which way you want to synergize them together. And as you progress, you basically upgrade your hero, you make him stronger, you give him bonuses, you make the cards in your hand do more, you give your hero, like, when you do this, your cards in your hand do that, and you can pull off some, like, really intricate, amazing sort of combos within this. And at the end of your turn, your hand would go away, and you would get a new hand the next turn, which whether it be 5, 6, 7 cards. And then your opponent would attack your, the minion or whatever, AI bot you're fighting would attack you and do their moves, and then you'd have another move to respond to that. And each and every turn you draw from a deck, and the deck would basically be, you'd start with a core set of 10 really shitty cards. And as you make your way through, this maze or this map, you would upgrade your deck and you'd go to like the merchant, and the merchant you could buy and sell cards with gold, and the gold you'd get through beating people along the way. You can kind of see where we're going here. It's like a turn-based RPG game. And it's really cool if you haven't played something like that. It's very different, but it's very, very realistic that they would put something like that in Hearthstone, as Hearthstone is a card game. And you can do so many things with Hearthstone. As we've seen Battlegrounds in the past and how successful that's been. They just took that from the auto battler genre, which came off a mod through Dota. And that has evolved into an entire new genre, and Hearthstone took a bit of that and implemented it into their game. So it's really cool to see Hearthstone reaching out and taking a lot of the elements from cool games and cool new genres that we're seeing in the gaming world and implementing those systems into Hearthstone. So this good direction for Hearthstone. We'll enjoy hopefully playing it, and as soon as it's available, we're going to give it a go, of course, and do our review on it and maybe turn it into something we do regularly if it's something you guys like, but we'll have to see. Regardless, any new game mode, anything to keep Hearthstone continuing to innovate and move forward is going to be something I have a vote into, and I hope it's great. And if we scroll down here, we have the Book of Mercenaries, which I'm assuming will go along with the new game mode. They've also updated the returning player experience. As a new player, you'll get more stuff for going in there. It'll be easier to get the Demon Hunter class unlocked because it's no longer like a super new thing. They want to make this game very easily accessible to newer players and be able to catch up to us veterans who've been playing way too long now since the game started. So that is going to be all for all of these updates. We're going to do another video right after this that's going to cover the new expansion, which is super exciting. So much stuff. I hope I've done a decent job on unpacking it. There's just so much. I just finished watching the live, the BlizzCon live on our Twitch, and it's been a day. So with that, thank you guys for watching. Would love to hear what you have to say, and make sure to watch the next expansion video. As always, I'm Robert Warshak, and happy whatever the hell day it is.